The following broadcast is a Nighthawk Network presentation.
What's going on, good people? It's your boy E-Buck in the building. This is the I Am Nighthawk Podshow, where we talk about the things that I think about while many of you are asleep. What's going on? Quite a crazy day taking place here in the world known as the world. A couple things went on that I really wasn't expecting. One, of course, which we will definitely talk about tonight, and the other one's my business. Yeah, my personal business. Weird. Anyway. All that being said, we are here to talk to you guys tonight on a few topics. The first one we're going to get into is the situation going on with the Oxford High School shooting situation that started a couple years ago. Understand that I've been following this story since the beginning when it happened on that unfortunate day in late November a couple years ago when the little demon, as I call him, Ethan Crumley, decided that he was going to take matters into his own hands and take the lives of 4 people that we can no longer get back. As a result, he was put in jail, and then soon followed that his parents were also incarcerated, leading to a one-of-a-kind trial in which both he and his parents were tried for the murders of the 4 victims. We are now at a point where all 3 have been convicted of the crime, all 3 found guilty, and we already know that Ethan will be spending the rest of his life in jail without parole, barring any crazy thing happening in his appeal, of course. And now we know the results of what happened with the parents as well. Let's check out this quick little video, and then we'll discuss.
Sentencing in Michigan, where a judge has sentenced both parents of the 2021 Oxford High School shooter to 10 to 15 years in prison. James and Jennifer Crumley, both separately addressing the judge today and the families who had everything ripped from them. The judge today making it clear their, quote, convictions confirm repeated acts or lack of acts that could have halted an oncoming runaway train. That very inaction haunting the parents and loved ones in that courtroom today.
While your son was hearing voices and asking for help, I was helping Madison pick out her senior classes. While you were purchasing a gun for your son and leaving it unlocked, I was helping her finish her college essays. When you were on the phone for 10 minutes with each other trying to figure out where the gun was, I was on the phone with her father and family trying to figure out where she was. When you texted, Ethan, don't do it, I was texting Madison, I love you, please call Mom. When you found out about the lives your son took that day, I was still waiting for my daughter in a parking lot. When you asked him why, I was waiting for the answer onto why the last bus never came. When the police showed up at your house, you didn't understand why they were there. And I was asking police if they checked every possible location and if I could go search too.
Incredibly emotional day in that courtroom. NBC's Shaq Brewster reporting for us from outside the courthouse in Pontiac. Also hear this on set, MSNBC legal analyst Danny Savalos. Shaq, if you will, start us off. I was watching that testimony all throughout the morning. I cannot imagine what it's like to be those parents in their shoes, reliving that day once again. Walk us through it.
Yeah.
Good people, I will not put you through the rest of that video. It's just so hard when you, as a parent, spend your life dedicating yourself to your children, doing the best that you can to make sure that they are growing up to be great people and great citizens, and then they are tragically taken away by parents who are not as committed to do the same. The sad truth of the matter is that the parents of Ethan Crumley failed him. They failed him big time. And as a result, now they are all incarcerated for at least the next 10 to 15 years. Now, when we talk about the actual sentence itself, I understand that it was the guidelines of the state. That's basically the maximum that they could have received. I really personally feel like none of them, the parents or the child, should ever see the light of day again. They do not deserve to be amongst a society in which they did not properly contend with themselves on a daily basis. Now, on the one hand, you can say, well, was it truly Ethan's fault? He was a child when this happened after all, but in the end, if you were old enough to pull the trigger, you in turn are old enough to contend with the consequences thereof. It's just as simple as that. So when I consider that much of it, I feel like he got what he deserved. He should be in prison. He should never, ever, ever get out, because in the end, if you release him from prison, you can't bring back the lives that he took with that gun that fateful day. Those parents and the families of those 4 individuals will forever be scarred. The other victims who were shot, who live, have to live with that memory for the rest of their lives. Oxford High School will never be the same. The Oxford community will never be the same because of the actions of that young man and the lack of action of those parents. Sadly, we must now contend with the aftermath thereof, but have some type of solace knowing that these individuals are no longer a part of walking society. It's crazy that it actually took so long for this to transpire. Almost 3 years it took for us to get to this point. I understand, and actually I will explain that a little more when we get to our second topic. But in the same token, I hate it. I hate it for all the people involved who they basically had to sit and wait and be concerned as to, okay, will justice be served? Will everybody involved get to see these people get the sentence that they deserve for killing their young people? I mean, understand that in the case of a couple of them, I believe that was the only child that they had, the person that was killed in the Oxford shooting. So now you have no children in the world known as ours. We never want to be parents who have to bury our children. The circle of life is supposed to go where you, the parent, is supposed to go before your child. And in the end, the only thing you ever want to see anybody die of is old age. Not basically going to school to learn and on a fateful day being in the wrong place at the wrong time, dealing with the wrong person. Now, what is the true lesson here? Hopefully the lesson is that now that this case has gone on and we now have a precedent as to what is good and not good to contend with in regards to kids who have this mental issue that leads them to take other people's lives, that the parents who are basically in charge of these children, in charge of letting them become the adults that we all hope would be good people, that they will take that job more seriously. There are so many parents out there now, I feel, just parents for convenience, just parents for circumstance, just basically had one night of I won't even call it passion, just one night of sexual intercourse that led to childbearing, and they were not capable of being good parents. In the ideal world, we know we are in the school year. Fortunately, we have not had many of these incidents since this time. Thank God. Hopefully, this will deter future incidents, many of them, as we can now have parents recognize that, okay, if your child is struggling, if they're having issues contending with school and life, that the ultimate solution is not to take your life or the lives of other people, is to sit down and find someone to talk to, make sure you make anybody, and everybody listened to you. So you know that there is help out there, and hopefully for those who are able to provide said help, make yourselves available to do so. You may not only be saving the life of that individual, but the lives of several others as well. And as far as the parents of Ethan Crumley goes, I feel life is being kind to you. In an ideal society, perhaps you should no longer be here. Granted, the Bible says that it's not our place to judge people, but in this case, it's hard not to. When you realize that it was their reckless parenting that caused this situation to be what it was. Truly, truly sad. But fortunately, the best outcome that we could get has appeared to be the case this time around. Now, when we talk about court outcomes, we now have a different subject to discuss altogether. The main reason why we are here tonight for the I Am Nighthawk Podshow is to discuss the passing of the infamous Orenthal James Simpson. As you know, and for a few people that may not know, been under the rock most of the day, OJ Simpson was announced to be dead today at the age of 76 years old. As I've had time to process his passing, I have to admit I am very conflicted as to how to truly, truly feel. Understand, based on the main circumstance that became his life, many people today are looking at the passing of OJ as more or less a good thing. I'm pretty sure if you check X right now, the trending thing is OJ dead, good riddance. As many people have stated over the course of the day that they are content with OJ no longer being a member of the planet. It's hard for me because I've been doing my best lately to try to put myself in the shoes of all people involved in someone's life. I take my own life, for instance. I know there are several people in my life that care about me and love me and want good for me, but there are other people in my life that basically could care less or do not want to see me do well. I think the majority of us can say that to some degree. We all seem to have our haters, good, bad, or otherwise. However, in the case of Orenthal James Simpson, it's a little different because the world had reason not to care for him. Understand that OJ lived a privileged life. He truly did. When you consider that he grew up a superstar athlete, and having been around superstar athletes or just athletes in general, some of them have a conception of what life is that is different than basic person A, because they are seen as special. They are given preferential treatment throughout their lives because of what they are able to do, what abilities they may have physically as athletes. OJ was not just a athlete, a star athlete. He was a superstar athlete. He had been that in high school. He went on to University of South California, one of the more premier athletic schools in the country, and then went on to win the most coveted award in college football, the Heisman Trophy. He then went on to have a stellar career as a running back in the NFL, a career that led him to be a future Hall of Famer as an NFL player, and then went on to have a successful career outside of football. Now, understand, I basically have been alive for the better part of the rise of OJ. keep in mind he's 76, I'm 53. So when I was a child, there was that. He was checking in with his comment. He was one of the best players to play in his era. The main thing I didn't like about it was most of what social media and on sports networks. They talk way more about the negative than the positive. And see, again, that's part of where I am semi-conflicted, my friend. Because understand, and to this day, even in his death, Orenthal James Simpson, OJ Simpson, is still a hero to some. He truly is, because they are able to separate his actions from who he was, if that is possible. When you think of OJ Simpson as the athlete, the actor, the sports commentator, things that he basically did very well, he was in like to have one of the best overall lives of any athlete ever at the time before what happened that fateful day. But then we have to understand what happened that fateful day where he allegedly killed Nicole Brown Simpson and her friend Ronald Goldman. It changed not only his life, but the life of every individual that was touched by his life, and thusly pretty much the life of everybody in the country in some way, shape, or form, if you really think about it. Now, understand, when we look at the various documentaries, and I'm sure there'll be new ones that will come about in light of his death, we see that OJ was basically very self-centered when it came to certain things. He was a man who we knew in the public as one thing, but for those in his private life knew him as something entirely different and not necessarily a good thing. He was now saying, but he put himself out there in that negative spotlight. We knew him as a former Heisman winner and one of the freaks in the NFL. I loved him in the Naked Gun movies. And yes, again, there were good things to like about OJ. Like I said, he was charismatic. He was not only a good athlete, he was a good speaker. He basically talked well people. Like I said, even in his down times, he still did things for people that I'm sure will come to light and will be viewed in a positive way. Look at the whole process. Okay, first of all, we know what happened. OJ allegedly, and of course, just using allegedly because of the fact that he was never convicted of that crime, killed two people. He then, of course, went on the famous Bronco chase that was viewed all across the world that particular day. It's several events in OJ's life. I'm pretty sure if you are a person, you may not remember the date, but you probably remember what you were doing when it happened. Of course, I was watching the NBA Finals the day of the faithful run in the Bronco, where basically he was with his good friend Al Collins, and I'm pretty sure that they are people that are reaching out to him to get his comments in regards to the day, and I'm sure he probably is conflicted as well. At that time, OJ basically was saying that he was going to kill himself because he could not contend with the situation for what it was. Now, whether he was truly going to do it or not, I think only OJ knows. But in the end, that all led to what eventually became one of the most compelling television events and things in the last 50 years here in America. Understand that for those of you who are not alive during the early 90s when the OJ trial started, depending on what age you were, you probably kind of contend with it differently. You may remember it if you were a young child from it constantly being on TV, understanding that that trial went on for over a year, and many times it was shown on television, at least the highlights, if not the entire day of the trial. understand that CNN became the network it is today, partially because of the OJ trial, as they showed it as an entirety from the beginning to the end. Court TV, as we know it, became what it is known as today because of the OJ trial. At that time, I was in college myself, and I basically became very enthralled into the whole business that was OJ. So much so that I planned parts of my day around at least catching some of the trial from day to day, and actually would skip a few classes here and there to watch some of the OJ trial, to be honest. It became such of an interest to me, in fact, that I actually wrote one of my final journalism papers. For those of you who know, I was a journalism major for a time in school. And I wrote it based upon that trial and people's thoughts in regards to that trial. It was an interesting time to be alive, truly. Understand that the OJ Simpson trial that took place in California was 2 years after the Rodney King verdict. And that those same police officers in LA, some of them, well, probably not the exact officers, let me not say that. Basically, that department was still being ran by a lot of the same people that were running the department during that time. Let's say that. When you look at the evidence as it was, there was definitely more evidence that pointed to him definitely committing the murders. I think we all know that. We all know what happened in the end. He was found not guilty. We'll get back to that in a second. But as you also know, there was then a civil trial where he was indeed found guilty in order to pay over $30 million in restitution, of which most of that money the family never saw. Though somehow OJ was able to live a life outside of that, and even more so after what happened to him. But the thing that really stuck out after time was some of the things that happened in that trial, where it looked that the police department was going out of its way to make sure OJ got convicted, to make sure that he, as a black person, was found guilty, almost even as if to make up for what happened with the Rodney King trial, to a degree, I feel. Just based on some of the things that happened, like I said, if you want to relive it, there are, of course, the documentaries, and of course, there's the very infamous OJ. Give me a second, people. Miniseries, that's what I want to call it. The OJ miniseries that you can find. I believe it's still on. You might find it on Tubi now. I'm pretty sure they'll probably move it to that sometime next day or two. You might be able to find it on Netflix or Amazon Prime. You'll find it somewhere. And it basically breaks down in detail what happened during those times. But truth be told, I think when we are all honest with ourselves, the reason why many of us that look like us, I should say, were joyful when the verdict was announced that he was not guilty was not because we didn't feel he was guilty. I personally feel like, yeah, he did it. And I feel like most of us know that he did it. But the fact that he was able to be free of the charges gave people hope in regards to a justice system that many times in life took people that looked like me and convicted us of crimes that we did not commit whatsoever, in no way, shape, or form. Basically, him being found not guilty to some degree kind of made up for some of that. I feel like that's how I felt. I feel like that's how a lot of people that were my age and people that looked like me felt at that time. On the other hand, it definitely did not help a country that is oftentimes divided by issues of race. I think that day was very conflicting for all of us who basically are people who have both white and black friends, and some of the conversations that had to take place after the verdict with some of us. I remember particularly on the campus of Eastern Michigan University when it was announced, very raucous, joyful occasion on the one hand, very upsetting occasion on the other, depending on who you were and where you were at the time. They did actually show the verdict in the lunchroom, one of the central parts of campus. So there was a mixture of people there. I recall several disagreements in the days to come that led to physical altercations that I pretty much can pin to that moment in time. It was like that, I'm pretty sure, across the country, in fact, when it came to certain, not just certain campuses, but certain peoples in general in regards to the whole OJ thing. A lot of what they showed on CNN today was the fateful moment where it was shown on the Oprah Winfrey Show live as it happened, and the mixed reaction that it got at that time. Even Oprah seemed conflicted as to how to really feel. She was kind of just froze as to when it actually was announced, not knowing what to say at that particular moment, but of course finding the words as things transpire. Here's the thing. What made that situation even crazier was the fact that OJ then went on to kind of do things to kind of spit in the face of the people who helped to get him exonerated. When he basically did the whole special, if I did do it, and wrote the book, I personally feel like that was one of the dumbest things anybody has ever done in life. You walked away from double murder and you put yourself back in a scenario by actually writing a book detailing what might have happened if you did it. So very not smart. But as we got to know OJ outside of the trial, we got to know him as being a bit of a arrogant son of a bee, bit of a narcissist. I'm OJ. That's why I got off, because I'm OJ. And truthfully, when all is said and done, at that moment, that probably is. I'm pretty sure that some of those jurors to this day felt like they did what they had to do, but did not really do what was right. They went by the letter of the law as it was basically mapped out, but in the same token, they felt to some degree that he truly did do it. Now, the thing was, OJ could not stay out of trouble after that. As they've chronicled during the course of the day, there were a couple times where OJ was stopped by police and found himself in trouble. They talk about the time he was stealing cable and the traffic incident that he had. But what really made things crazier was the whole OJ memorabilia trial. If those of you who remember that, and how he basically got caught up in this thing trying to get some of his stuff back. Things that, honestly, if he would have gotten back, more than likely would have to resell in order to pay the damages from his civil court case anyway. So why he even attempted to do that in and of itself was not a wise decision. When all was said and done, he was convicted of that crime and given 33 years of prison. Now, at that moment, when that verdict was announced, I was at work that day. I truly thought that was the last we would see of OJ. That not only would he not live to get through all 33 years of that prison sentence, and technically he didn't, but that he wouldn't even get that far because something was going to happen to him when he went to prison. Because several people felt like he should have been in there already. Now, fast forward 9 years later, where to another great surprise, the infamous OJ Simpson was released from prison for that crime. Now, again, the law was in his favor because in the end, he served his time in good standing, was a model citizen in prison, according to most reports, actually was serving as a mentor to people in prison, was known for not only mentoring young men and helping them get things together in their life, but giving good business advice, good stock advice, but also helping people out their fantasy football leagues and whatnot because of his vast experience as both football player and commentator. It was crazy the day that they released him from prison because, of course, it happened in the middle of the night to avoid all the cameras and paparazzi and whatnot. He was released into a different world than the one that he knew. Because keep in mind, 2009, the time when social media started to come into form, where we started to have the Facebook and the online chats and whatnot, where cell phones were prevalent at that point, and the technology was only getting better and better. Now, in an ideal world, I felt like once OJ got out the second time, he would basically disappear from sight. He basically would go in some little cubby hole in some little nowhere place, and we would never hear from him again. And wisely so, that he would finally have learned his lesson and be like, look, I actually got out of prison again. Let me shut up and just live the rest of my sad little life and move on. That did not exactly happen. There were times when OJ would pop up here and there. He chose to go on social media in the last several years of his life, but fortunately he did not comment often on things, and he truly shouldn't have, because when he did, it caused a ruckus and an issue, particularly some of the things that he chose to comment on that he really shouldn't have. Sometimes OJ needed to be very, very, very quiet, okay? But all that being said, we have to remember OJ, villain that he may have been, he was still a father. He was still a brother. He was still a friend. He was a grandfather. And there were people that generally loved him, despite all that he had done. And they not only befriended him, but they basically kept his secrets, at least up until this point. And they basically helped to keep him maintained the rest of his life until this fateful day on April 11, 2024. So as I look at the whole experience that was OJ, part of me is torn because I feel like on the one hand, justice never really was going to be served once that fateful day happened. But now that he is no longer walking the earth, perhaps it gives some people rest, knowing that they don't have to see the sight of the man anymore, at least in the flesh. But on the other hand, he was a fallen hero to some of us, you know? It's hard, you know what I'm saying? As a sports fanatic for most of my entire life, at one point in time, OJ Simpson was one of my heroes. He was one of the people I looked up to, admired, aspired to be even. But then after that fateful day, I, of course, saw OJ in a different light, as several of us did. But still was a hero for what he accomplished, even in the bad times. How many people to this day think that, okay, all I need to do is to be rich. If I could be rich and certain things happen, I'm not worried, because just like OJ, I'm going to get off because I got money, and money helps to make things better and different, because it seems like that was the case. It seems like because of the fame and popularity of OJ, that's why he was able to get away with so very much. I mean, like I said, I find myself saddened. I find myself torn. I find myself at peace, though. I find myself wondering. It's going to be interesting in the days and weeks to come what is said about OJ from the various people in his life, there are definitely secrets that I'm pretty sure he would want the people that were in his circle to keep to their grave. And I'm sure with the proper motivation, some of those secrets will indeed come out. I wonder if there's some document somewhere deep inside the home of OJ Simpson where he basically admits that, yeah, I did it. I'm sorry, whatever the case may be. And if we ever see that document, I wonder if he has told his children one day as he came closer to meeting his maker that, yeah, y'all know I did it right. And if they in turn will tell the world what was told to them that day. I wonder truly, because in the end, I'm still had a little sliver of doubt as to whether or not he really did do it. If in the end we someday find out that no, it wasn't OJ, or OJ didn't even act alone in it, that he had help in that thing. I still wonder that to this day. Did he really do it by himself? Was there somebody else involved? Who knows? A lot of more questions to ask than answered. Some of those things we'll probably never ever know. I'm just interested to see what the world's reaction over the next few weeks is going to be like overall. If there's going to be a public funeral, if there's going to be any type of celebratory, good, bad, or otherwise by either black, white, whatever community in regards to it. I'm curious to see how we as the world play that, as by far one of the more well-known people on earth, if you really think about it, died today. And under normal circumstances, it would be seen different. But because that person was OJ Simpson, we all kind of feel a little different. You know, we talk about the people that, okay, we all remember what day it was when Prince died, when Michael Jackson died, when Elvis died, when presidents died. But we'll also remember the day OJ Simpson died. Maybe not the date, but I'm sure we'll remember this day later on down the line. Yeah, I remember when OJ died. It was such and such and such a day. It rained real bad here in Detroit, such and such and such, you know? So, yeah, unfortunately, I'm not getting many comments this evening. I could not drum up enough of y'all to tune in today, unfortunately. Perhaps when you see the rebroadcast and you see my comments, you will add to the comments. Would appreciate it. We'll always come back and re-comment on those comments later on down the line. But nonetheless, we're going to keep the show moving. We're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to talk about a little debate that we having here in the city in regards to something that happened here this week. Not nothing crazy, mind you, but definitely something I kind of want to get into. Man, we will have that discussion here on the I Am Nighthawk Pod Show after these words from a Nighthawk Network. Nighthawk Network, our voices for our people.
On Blog Talk Radio or where most great music podcasts are located.
We're not asking for your permission. We're not seeking your approval. We're claiming what's ours. in the name of our ancestors. We are their answered prayers. This is more than a movement. This is a revolution. Black innocence. What are yours today?
Hello, hello, hello. It's another glorious day, my tea-sippers, and you know what time it is. I hope you have all of your comforts together because it's time to dish tea. And you're dishing tea, darlings, with Big Meat.
Can't wait. It's time to dish tea with Big Meat. It's time to dish tea with Big Meat. It's time to dish tea with Big Meat. It's time to dish tea with Big Meat.
Darling.
All right, we are back. This is the I Am Nighthawk Pod Show. I am your host, E-Buck, in the building, talking to y'all. Just got to talk about OJ Simpson. May God have mercy on his soul. But anyway, we are moving on to a topic I want to get into before we end the show this evening about what's going on here in Detroit. As you know, or at least some of you know, the NFL draft is going to happen in a couple of weeks. And this year, that draft will take place in the city I call the D. Yes, my hometown of Detroit will be hosting the NFL draft. And as a result, there are some improvements being made to the city to kind of welcome the world to our playground. One of these things that we as Detroiters have been looking forward to was the creation of a Detroit sign that would be seen by people as they enter the city. Now, that's a good thing, right? But let's talk about it after this thing.
The NFL draft, the city unveiling its new gateway sign to welcome hundreds of thousands of visitors. Thank you for staying with us today. I'm Glenda Lewis. Well, if you've been on social media and read the comments on our Facebook page, a lot of people didn't seem too impressed with that signage. We're hearing from so many of you, and they say it's fair. Opinions run deep on this one. One person commenting, I love it. I think it's very cool and needed, but others weren't so happy. A lot of you seemed disappointed in that sign. One Detroiter saying, our potholes are bigger than this. Your thoughts are the reason we sent 7 Action News reporter Kimberly Craig to find why so many of you are voicing disdain for the Detroit sign.
The Detroit Gateway sign is aimed at greeting people coming into the city, but not everyone is giving the sign itself a warm welcome.
It represents Detroit. Everybody's going to have a different opinion.
And they certainly do.
Maybe make it stand out a little more, because, you know, it looks kind of frail.
I love it. And then we love it. I think people just thought maybe that it was going to be bigger or more sparkly or kind of the comparisons to the Hollywood sign. And it doesn't look like the Hollywood sign, but that's okay. Like the Hollywood sign wouldn't work right here.
A city official said it was going to be like the Hollywood sign, but smaller, and smaller it is. And although it doesn't look very different from the rendering the city released, an image that went around social media perhaps gave people the impression that it was going to be huge, including the hills around it.
I don't know where they think they're going to put it. We don't have hills around here.
What do you make of the criticism?
I don't think it's fair, for one. The citizens of Detroit should be happy that we have this.
There's a song about it.
One thing I'ma do, I'ma state the fact. This ain't the sign that we ordered, you can take it back.
What made you come up with the song?
Well, you know, I'm the voice of Detroit, so yesterday I got like over 1,000 inbox to do the song, so had to do the song.
And rapper G-Mac Cash wrote it last night.
I think I seen a bigger sign at a graduation.
That looked like Dollar Tree, like, you know the Dollar Tree sign?
But the sign does have its fans.
The sign's great. That's something they should do. This way, when people come into the city, they know where they're at. They're in Detroit, the big D.
And when the Joe Louis Fist was revealed years ago, there were mixed opinions. Now it's a landmark, iconic. Do you think it'll be a landmark one day?
I think so.
Around the sign today, crews were working on installing some lights.
I think that once people see it lit up, maybe that'll improve their opinion of it.
It looks much better in person than it does on the photographs that I've seen.
So people should come down here and take a look.
Oh yeah, take a look.
I think it's nice.
It's not that bad, but we just expect it bigger.
Even though it's not exactly how I pictured it, it sort of instills a sense of pride in me that is invaluable.
We're not in Hollywood, we're in Detroit. And that's great right there, as far as I'm concerned.
In Detroit, Kimberly Craig, 7 Action News.
All right, we'll keep those comments coming. Thank you, Kimberly.
All right, that's the news report in regards to the Detroit sign, which we'll be talking about now. Okay, here's where I'm at with it. On the one hand, I like it. I like it because of the fact that it is something that highlights our city, and anything that shows my city love, I feel good about to some degree. That being said, like some of the comments, it's not the sign that we thought we were getting. Excuse me, good people. Let me take some water in before I continue. Okay. When it was first described as we were getting a Hollywood type Detroit sign, that's more or less what I personally expected. I think several of you agree. We're expecting this big, ostentatious, bright sign to be prominently displayed somewhere near the downtown area going into the city. That sign that we saw in that report is not that. Ostentatious, it is not. Truly big and bright, it is not. Yeah, they're installing lights and whatnot, and it would be interesting if there are lights being installed within the letters to where they perhaps change different colors. I mean, the coloring of itself of the letters, I wasn't really happy with. Keep in mind, this is Detroit, and I really was expecting the Detroit style sign to be some type of prominent Detroit colors, like some close to this Honolulu blue, or of course the Tigers colors, the Detroit Tigers, or even would have been cool if it was the red and white of the Detroit Red Wings. That would have been nice. We didn't get any of that. It just looks like a bootleg sign, basically. And apparently there are some who like it, as you see in the report, but I say the vast majority feel some type of way, at least those that choose to comment on social media, which again remains undefeated. Let me just read y'all some of these comments. Nobody wants to see $400,000 spent on this and a few other smaller signs. I really hope they didn't spend that type of money on that per se. We're not in Hollywood, we're in Detroit, says somebody. $400K cost them $5K max. They pocketed the rest. Thanks, dumb taxpayers. Yeah, I am having a hard time believing that that particular sign cost $500,000. I agree. Waste of money. Why not the English D and bigger? Make it more of a wow factor. Make it more ostentatious. I really don't understand why they didn't make the D a English D. That makes perfect sense. I mean, pretty much. It is what we are known for. When you go anywhere in the world and you have that English D on your hat, one of the first questions you will probably be asked is, oh, that D, are you from Detroit? Because pretty much between that and the infamous saying that we all know and love, what up, though? That is usually one of the first two indicators that that person might be from the city known as Detroit. So why not have the English D on the sign? I think if you had that, that would have made half of these comments go away in and of itself. I like the sign idea, but it's too generic looking. Feel like spending that money to pick up all the trash on the highways would be better than a sign people see for 5 seconds. $400K, right. How much blight could have been removed? I can't argue any of these points, people. Then, of course, there are some people that just went there with it. Sign looks like crap. Looks like they ordered this sign from Temu. It looks like it was made in the 70s. Wait till the scrappers get to it. It looks like a Dollar Tree sign. Who pays for all this unnecessary crap? We, the taxpayers. Voice of Detroit, please. Of course, that was a comment about the GMAC thing. That's a whole nother story. But anyway, when all is said and done, it seems like the majority of the people I've talked to thus far, they like the idea of sign. They do not like the result of said sign. Okay? Understand we have other Detroit landmarks, and there were some people that questioned some of them. I bring back what one of the things they talked about in the story with the Joe Louis Fist. At the time, several people did not care for it, but we have come to love it as one of our treasured landmarks. This I think is gonna take a little bit longer. Would I be surprised that if someday after the draft that they come up with a way to not have this sign or to change it or to enhance it some type of way? Not be surprised at all. Do I feel at some point something stupid involving this sign will take place? Absolutely. This is Detroit. Of course they're going to vandalize or do something stupid to the sign. It's just a question of when. That's not to say that these things don't happen because, of course, you know, the Hollywood sign has been defamed on several occasions over the years. The other thing that Hollywood is known for, the famous Walk of Fame, has been defiled at times. You remember a couple years ago when people messed up Donald Trump's star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame? So no, would not surprise me at all somebody do something stupid to that sign somewhere down the line. Won't be me. For the record, I'm just putting that out. Facts. I ain't do it. I'm just stating this for the purpose of the show, okay? I'm not messing with the sign. I might actually go see if I can photograph it. Maybe take a picture next to it because it's that big where you basically can just go post up like, hey, I'm about the Detroit sign. I'm sure there'll be people that'll do that. But in terms of it being a symbol of the city, not so much. Not really feeling it. Would love to know your comments, my fellow Detroiters, as to what you think of the Detroit sign. Make sure you can post those in the comments as well, whether you are watching the show on the YouTube or checking me out on the Facebook Live. Feel free. I think I should also repost parts of this show on my Instagram pages as well for you so that you may comment on them also. But as far as the story as it is, that's all I got to say on it. Please join us next time on I Am Nighthawk Podshow. We're going to talk about the various beefs that have taken place over the course of the last 4 months. Like ever since Cat Williams, it's been a certain thing that just continues to jump off in society, and particularly amongst people that look like myself. Got some comments on those. We'll talk about it next time around. Until then, y'all have a pleasant evening. It is raining here. It's making me sleepy. I'm about to lag off and go to bed. Please check us out, like I said, on the social media. You can find me at Eric Buckner Nighthawk Network Detroit on YouTube. You can find me at E Nighthawk or EricHawk45 on IG. And you can also find me, right here we go. Yeah, you can find me there on YouTube. Look for that right there. Or you could also, like I said, find us here on the book. Or if you are part of the Nighthawk Network Information Society, you can check us out there. Until then, good people, you have a very pleasant evening. I love you all. Be safe, be blessed. If you are down, put your hands together in prayer and let the good Lord deal with the rest. Until next time we meet, we are out of here. Where is that close? There it is. All right, y'all. Deuces. This has been the I Am Nighthawk podcast. A Nighthawk Network presentation. Nighthawk Network. Our voices for our people.